Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. That's the beauty of podcasting. You can listen whenever you want. Welcome into Touchdown in Paradise here in the Fins Talk Sports Network. I'm Justin.
I'm Pete.
I'm Joe. You're muted.
And Russ is on mute.
I'm Russ.
Classic.
Hey, sabbatical Pete, cut it. Sabbatical Pete,
Way
cut
to
it.
start the show off on a good note, boys.
Hey, at least
Welcome
I
in.
show up. At least I show up every week. I'm here when it's 10:30 on the East Coast. It's called dedication, boys.
It's 9:34 on the East Coast, FYI.
Well, we've done podcasts. It's been 10:30.
Fair enough. Welcome in to Touchdown in Paradise. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us for more. Not the best week of college football, if you ask me, Pete, or Joe. And Russ had an okay-ish week until Arizona fell short in the end. We'll talk about that later. But we can't start the show off without talking about maybe the all-time biggest blunder, at least in the last half decade or so, that occurred at Hard Rock Stadium on Saturday night. Miami loses an all-time blunder to Georgia Tech in the last second. So a quick recap of what happened here. Mario Cristobal, and instead of kneeing the ball out, he decides to send his running back carrying the ball, and then the running back fumbles. Georgia Tech recovers. 2 plays later, they're in the end zone, touchdown, Yellow Jackets win, which I just can't even believe this because Mario Cristobal did this. He's also done this consistently. Before we get into that, I want to hear from Russ first. You being on the East Coast, being in Florida, what is the reaction that you've seen?
I mean, it's not good, but I mean, Cristobal, he shouldn't need the ball definitely, but I mean, Miami definitely made some serious blunders, interceptions, penalties, stuff like that. And Georgia Tech still had to go 72 yards to score a touchdown. So it's, Miami definitely, when they needed to put the ball game away, didn't do the job. And then their defense, had to get a stop there, and they let them score on 72 yards in 3 plays. So, I mean, yeah, that's a massive blunder on Cristobal's part there, but I mean, they could have put him away earlier. They kind of let him hang around.
Let's go around the horn here. Joe, you next.
Yeah, I think you can never point to one play and say that's what lost you the game. It's a game for a reason. You have 4 quarters, 2 halves. You have to put it all together. So, I mean, I agree with Russ. Miami had multiple opportunities to make that game way farther, way much more of a blowout than what it needed to be. And again, to make it a 1-possession game, if that. But again, we were talking about analytics in baseball, and I mean, where's the guy screaming at Cristobal just to take the knee? I mean, the analytics would have probably said, you take the knee, you have a 99% chance of winning. So it's like, definitely a bad decision, bad coaching decision, and it's kind of starting to become a reoccurring thing for him.
I mean, I'm going to chime in here a little before Pete. When you mentioned baseball, me being a baseball guy, you always you get a man on first, you steal, you get thrown out, and then that guy gets a base hit, and you're like, oh, it would have been first and second or first and third. I mean, you don't really know that, or even football would be like, oh, if this penalty didn't happen, this happens. I'm like, yeah, you don't know that's going to happen. You think it's going to happen because that's what happened after, but you don't know it's going to happen.
Yeah, but a knee is such a safe play. I mean, there's, unless the guy literally fumbles the snap, that's basically a done deal. I mean, the fact that he handed it off makes it a lot more riskier. You could fumble on the handoff, like the exchange. So just take the knee, man. Like, go home with the W.
Pete, come on.
I mean, what an idiot! Are you serious? Like, there's no question that this is Cristobal's fault. Miami should have kneeled it. If you're that worried about it being so close, hand it off, run around for a few damn seconds, and then go down. Like, it is astonishing how bad that was and how bad, low-key, he can be in these situations. I mean, thank God they still play North Carolina, Florida State, and then Louisville. I mean, they have a chance to still win the ACC, go to the ACC title game But I mean, it's unbelievable how stupid you gotta be. And also, obviously you're in game, so it's like, you're locked in, right? How's the quarterback for a split second not like, wait a minute, let me just audible this and kneel it? Like, why am I going to do this? There's a whole host of problems. You can say whatever you want about the rest of the game. Russ, you're right. They did screw a bunch of stuff up, but just kneel the damn ball. That's all you got to do. And low-key, it is kind of funny because the guy ran it and fumbled it, but after the replay, I don't know how they actually said he wasn't down because it looked clear on the replay like he was down before the ball was stripped. But, I mean, get wrecked, dude. What are you doing? That should be like one of those Sports Center or one of those shows used to have like what's going on or whatever that segment was. That's right there. Like, what the hell happened? I don't know.
3G, what was it? It was 3 jeers or something like that?
Yeah, jeers. Yeah, he gets all 3 jeers.
There was Scott Van Pelt's "What Are We Doing?" And then there's the "Not Top 10." Yes, a history of Cristobal here. Now, note that he did manage to win a Rose Bowl for Wisconsin and upstate Ohio State in Columbus, but he also had a couple other games very much like this one. He lost to a bad Stanford Cardinal, 31-24 in overtime, with 0 seconds on the clock in 2021. 2019. He lost to Bo Nix in Auburn. Yes, Bo Nix in Auburn. He was once the quarterback there. 27-21 with 9 seconds to go in the game in a neutral site in Dallas, Arlington. And then 2018, the one I was referencing, he lost to Stanford at home in overtime, 38-31, when Justin Herbert didn't take a knee. Instead, ball fumbled, Stanford kicks a field goal, and they lose in overtime. This is a repeated behavior for him. I just don't know if he's ever going to be able to win if this just keeps happening.
I mean, he has won, so we can't say he hasn't. I mean, when you win the Rose Bowl, I mean, that's still a resume.
Can you elevate your program to national championship contender level is the thing. Yes, you can win a Rose Bowl, great, but that doesn't really matter anymore.
I mean, yeah, now they're out of the conversation of the national championship. I think that's a great question.
They could do it. I mean, I was wrong. They also play Clemson. So they play UNC, Clemson, Florida State, and Louisville. I mean, they could still potentially maybe win the ACC. And then, I don't know. So I wouldn't say they're out of it, but they're pretty damn out of it. Like they're at the cliff and about to be nudged off. One more screw up, they're done.
I mean, I would say they're in the same boat as Notre Dame at this point. I mean, like, let's be honest. They have a chance. It's possible. Yeah. As you said, that is a good run of teams, but I mean, Florida State, I think, is on another level. The way Louisville played, they look really good.
Tallahassee too,
and it's at Tallahassee. Great, I didn't know that, Russ. So that's they're getting at least one more L, which will, regardless, will not have them in the ACC championship.
I don't see it happening either. Moving along here, Mike Gundy spoke to the media yesterday where he said, after they asked him about new facilities at Oklahoma State, don't build it. Put the money in the bank. Put the money in the bank and spend it on NIL. That's just the future, and I'm not saying I agree with it. I only know the sign of the times. He continued, players used to want to go somewhere for shiny new facilities and new uniforms and things like that. They still want to go somewhere where they win, but they also want the other stuff. I'm going to hypothetically build a situation. If you brought in 50 of our players and said, we'll NIL you $50,000 to $60,000 a year cash, or we can build you a new weight room, a meeting room, which one do you want? They're going to take money, right? That's what kids do nowadays. Now, it is noted here, Oklahoma State lost 16 players to the transfer portal this year, but they also brought in 12. It's unspecified if all those transfers were from NIL opportunities. But Pete, in this new day and age, is he right? Should you spend money on NIL instead of new facilities?
I think yes and no. All the other schools are going to spend money on NIL too, so it low-key is kind of an even playing field. It just depends on how deep your boosters' pockets are. And other schools that have deeper pockets are also going to spend money on the facility. So I don't think it's really an either or. I think you just got to do both. Also, I think you can say what you want about the portal and all that stuff. Kids want to go someplace where they're going to win. They want to go for a coach they believe in. I mean, you lost a number of guys on that team. It shows that, one, maybe they didn't believe in them. And maybe the coach, they didn't like the coach or the coaching staff or whatever it was. But I think it's a mixture of both. You can't just do one or the other, dude. Like, so what are you going to do? Only pay the players and then in a decade's time have a stadium that's crumbling? Like, they're not going to want to play there. They don't want to play in subpar stadiums where maybe they could get hurt if the turf isn't brand new or whatever it is. So I think it's a mixture of both. I think Gundy, he's kind of on to the point where it's like, yes, they will choose money. But, I mean, 50 to 60 grand a year when you're in college is great. But that's not like that's like a living salary that someone – I mean, people get paid that, but it's not like we're talking millions of dollars here, you know? So I don't know. I think you got to do both.
And Joe, if you had to play the chicken and the egg game, are you spending money on new facilities first and then NIL, or NIL first and then the facilities?
I think I agree with Pete. I think it's a mixture of both. I think you have to – it depends on which team, which program you're talking about. I mean, does Alabama, LSU, do they need to revamp their facilities? Probably not. So they can allocate that money to the NIL. But if you're like a, Oklahoma State, if you're, potentially like a Arizona or, just a Syracuse, I know, Russ, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Football is different than basketball, but, still, it's just you probably will want your facilities to be a talking point because – you don't have that same capital as an Alabama, Texas A&M, or whoever. I just find it interesting that he's not the only coach that this week is talking about that. Mark Stoops talked about that with Georgia and said, that's a great purchase team. So there's obviously a discussion going on around college football, especially around the coaches that are asking this same question. Do we just basically put certain things to the wayside and just spend our money on players, or do we, still build the program? And I think that's where we will see a split in college football, where there'll be teams and programs that focus on just buying players every year. And then there'll be programs that will focus on developing their culture, their facilities, and everything that makes them who they are.
Russ, your comment on this topic.
I mean, yeah, it's a little of both. I mean, you can see it on both sides. You definitely want nice facilities for the players, but I mean, you kind of see it on both sides. I mean, I know Colorado had 2 tough losses, but most of those players are NIL money, and Deion's turned that program around. And then maybe you see it on the other side with Jimbo, where he's spending all this money last year. They didn't have a great year, so it's kind of like you got to play both sides a little bit.
You definitely need to have a culture. I think that was the issue with Jimbo is, he had the number 1 recruiting class 2 years ago. He had 8 defensive linemen that basically everyone kind of knew they at Texas A&M had paid for. Basically next year, 4 of them had transferred and they're kind of still where they are. So, I mean, you got to develop the culture. I think the culture is essential. And if you have a culture, the NIL is easy money spent.
I mean, I guess you got to go back and are these guys coming, like you said, are they coming for the program? Are they coming for the coach, or strictly the cash? Because they're just coming for the cash, or are they putting their full heart into it? Do they want to be there and fight for? I don't even know how many players suit up for college right now, but are they fighting for those other guys, or are they just fighting for that paycheck?
You remember Quinn Ewers left early from high school to go to Ohio State when he was already committed to Texas just for that paycheck.
Yeah, in terms of the Jimbo thing, just because you can afford to buy a Lamborghini and you do buy one doesn't mean you know how to frickin' drive it. Like, just because you can afford these players, if you have a bad coach, who I think Jimbo is, it doesn't matter. The other thing I would say is NIL, they can also get sponsorships from local businesses. So why, if you're Gundy, why are you not bringing together a collective of local businesses and other things to help fund these players? Maybe not necessarily from whatever. I don't know how the whole thing works, but I feel like there's other things he can do to get guys cash if they're getting, poached from elsewhere. And the final thing is, whenever something changes in economics and anything like that, The people who bitch about it are the ones who are not succeeding because they're not mastering it. So it's their own fault. If you're talking about this and you don't like the way it is, this is the way it is, dude. So you might as well figure it out now and try to master it, because if you're just going to chirp about things the way things used to be, or, oh, it's not working here, whatever, you're just losing, dude. So I don't like it. Just shut up and try to master the new landscape, or you're just going to get left behind.
We have yet to see the future of NIL, but there is talk that the NCAA is going to start regulating this a bit more, and so we'll have to take a look. But we're going to move on. I hate to talk about this with the Notre Dame crew in here, but I feel like we should spend just a minute on it. Louisville punishes Notre Dame 33-20 in Louisville. Jack Harlow, Donovan Mitchell, all in attendance. They rushed the field. Jawar Jordan was the real star of the night. 21 carries, 143 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. Meanwhile, Sam Hartman, 254 yards to the air, 2 touchdowns, and 3 picks. Second year in a row that Louisville has upset a top 10 team, both quarterbacked by Sam Hartman. Now, Russ, I'll start with you because you're non-Notre Dame here. Are the Cards contenders or are they pretenders this year?
I mean, I would say they're pretenders right now just because of, they beat the top 10 team, but let's see them do it, week in, week out. So, I mean, that's a big win. What we're talking about culture, what Jeff Brom's done there in 1 year changed the culture, and they beat Notre Dame, and they're 5-0 now, 6-0. So I mean, culture is a big thing. He changed that in 1 year. So I mean, I wouldn't say contenders just yet. I would pump the brakes on that, but are they building something there in Louisville? Definitely.
Joe, let's hear from you.
Yeah, I don't think they're contenders yet. I think they showed that they have the capability, and I agree with you, Russ, that Jeff Brom's developing a culture in Louisville that I don't think they've had since Bobby,
Howard Schellenberger.
Yeah. I mean, does Louisville really have a football culture? I don't really know. I would say they're not contenders yet, though. They beat Notre Dame, a top 10 team, absolutely, at home. Let's see them go somewhere. I don't know their schedule, but if they play Florida State at Tallahassee, do they play Clemson in Death Valley?
No.
So ACC championship may be the biggest game for them. And if they play Florida State, I'm putting the farm on Florida State. So, but I do think that they are in 1 year, they've basically done a 180.
Quite impressive what Jeff Brom has done. He may get some Coach of the Year votes in the end. Pete, a little bit about what happened with Notre Dame here.
The game was close, and in the second half, we just blew it. I mean, they just took it to us, man. We could not get first downs. It seemed like every kind of play we were doing was just like a pass. There's not a lot of creativity. The fourth down, I mean, when we're down, 11, I think, is like 21-10 or something like that. Fourth down, there's 10 minutes left in the game, and we go for it. And I love going for it, dude. I am all gas, no brakes, bro. Take it to them. But we're only down, X amount, and there's a lot of the fourth quarter left. We go for it on fourth down and 10, base or 14, something like that. And we don't get the completion, and it was kind of a bad play. I just think they took it to us. I think they are, in terms of Louisville, I mean, great culture this year. I think they are pretenders because low-key, bro, Notre Dame's pretenders. So you beat another pretender. Ohio State's pretenders based on how they looked this past weekend. I think there's a lot of pretenders out there, and they're going to start to get shown here in the next couple weeks. Now, Notre Dame, when they play USC, is not going to be a pretender anymore because they're going to beat the brakes off them. But as of now, we are a pretender. And, Joe, you mentioned who Louisville plays. They don't play Clemson. The rest of their schedule, they're at home versus Duke. They're away versus Miami. And then they're at home versus Kentucky. So they don't play Florida State. They don't play Clemson. They have a real shot here if they can, they can turn themselves from a pretender into a contender, I think. But yeah, Notre Dame, I'm not trying to ramble. We're dead, dude. But until this weekend. But right now we're dead.
That Duke game will be interesting. That will definitely be a game to watch, especially if Leonard's back for Duke. we'll see though. I think that if that's really the remaining that they got on the schedule,
Yeah.
that should be a breeze for them. But who knows? We'll see.
I love that you're keeping it level-headed. You're being realistic, but you're very optimistic. We'll talk about the USC Notre Dame game later in the show. But before that, I'm going to end this one with Russ because he is our Oklahoma fan here. OU causes deep break in the heart of Texas, 34-30. Dylan Gabriel looking like a changed player since his UCF days, 285 yards, 1 touchdown. He also rushed for 14 times, 113 yards, and 1 touchdown. Meanwhile, Quinn Ewers, 346 through the air, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Jonathan Brook, 129 on the ground, and 1 touchdown. Joe, is this a preview of the Big 12 championship game, and who would you pick in a rematch?
Ooh, in a rematch, I'm taking Texas for sure. I thought they were the much better team. I just think Oklahoma wanted it more at the end. I think, I picked Oklahoma to be the upset. I just think, after getting embarrassed like they did last year, they have this circled. But in a rematch, I'm taking Texas.
Pete.
Yeah, I think the same thing. I think you're right, Joe. They literally had this game. I mean, they could lose every other game of the season, but I should have known. I should have picked Oklahoma. They had this one. This was a game that they were not going to lose. Texas is the better team. I think Texas is better coach too. But yeah, Oklahoma just took it freaking to them, man. In terms of a rematch, I'd maybe be a pick 'em on that one, but I'd probably give the slight edge to Texas. But I was wrong this past weekend, so I might be wrong again.
All right, Russ, take it away.
Oh, I mean, I thought it was a great game. I mean, Gabriel definitely looked really good. He was making plays in the air, throwing and on the feet, on the ground. And Brett Venables changed that defense. They had some big plays, but I mean, a rematch. I mean, it's tough beating a team twice in a year. Really tough to beat a team twice in the year. They have game tape on you. They know what you're going to do. So, I mean, I'm definitely it's going to be a rematch. It's going to be Texas, Oklahoma. Texas is favored in every single game, Oklahoma's favored in every single game remaining. And I think the best one remaining on the schedule is Kansas, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to that rematch. So it was a phenomenal game. But, yeah, Gabriel looked great. The defense – stepped up and good for Oklahoma. They got punched in the mouth last year and embarrassed, which is never something you like to do playing Texas if you're over there in Norman. So I guess I'm the resident Oklahoma guy by association. My sister went to Oklahoma. That was about, so I picked Texas stupidly, and before the game I changed. I was like, well, I guess I picked Texas, but I'll stick with my pick, but I'm rooting for Oklahoma now.
I thought you were rooting for Oklahoma the whole time.
Well, when I made my pick Texas, and then before the game started, I'm like, I got to go with family. I know better. So I had to change it hard. I made a stupid decision on that. Sometimes we do that. As
Vin Diesel said, Russ, you never turn your back on family.
No, never turn your back.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
nobody knows family like Vin Diesel. And staying with you, Russ, USC narrowly escaped your upset-minded Arizona Wildcats in 3 overtimes, 43-41. Caleb Williams, pedestrian numbers through the air by his standards, 219 yards, 1 touchdown, but he did have 3 rushing on the ground. Meanwhile, breakout star Noah Fifita, I think I'm saying that right, 303 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 1 pick. Now, there was a comedy of errors to end regulation for the Trojans, which ended the game in overtime, the game ended up in overtime because of that. So, Russ, let's hear it. What do you think of Arizona? What do you think of Fish?
I think they're starting to build something in Arizona. It's kind of exciting to see. I mean, it's always going to be tough for Arizona, being a basketball school and basketball always being the dominant school program on campus. But, I mean, I think they're starting to build stuff where, even last year they beat UCLA on the road in the Rose Bowl. They lost to 7 by Washington. I mean, yeah, they should have lost in regulation to SC there, but they didn't. terrible play call at the end there to go for 2, I thought. But you don't – for a team like Arizona, I'm like, moral victories is something because it hasn't been – I don't think the last time Arizona's been really dominant, good at football. Nick Foles was the quarterback. So, I mean, even though they took the L, you gotta think that you just had 2 top 10 teams, one coming to Tucson, one on the road, and you lost by 7 and lost by 2. So I think they're starting to move in the right direction.
Joe, you got your master's at USC. What did you feel about this?
Well, I'll first quickly touch on Arizona. I agree with you, Russ. I think they are building something. I think they are developing, as we've been. I feel like the theme of the show is a culture. And Arizona, Louisville, they're basketball schools that are developing some sort of football culture. And I would say in the next couple of years, I'm excited to see what they can do. Regarding SC, it's what we've talked about all year. Their defense is awful. It took basically, again, a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback to squeak them out of this game. Maybe some bad coaching, some bad play calling. But again, if you want to make it to the national championship, you need to be blowing teams out like this. And again, their defense can't. Their defense allows points. Ultimately, though, we'll see. Again, they have a big game against ND this week at ND. Were they overlooking Arizona? That's a real question. But ultimately, again, if you want to be in the national championship, you want to be in the playoff, you cannot overlook teams like Arizona.
Pete.
Yeah, I think you can't really overlook anyone in the Pac-12, especially this year, man. I mean, geez, the way it's been going. We talk about you need to blow teams out. The other end of the spectrum is you got to win games like this, where it's just like somehow, some way, the other team is inhuman in the way that they're playing. They're out of the stratosphere. Like their quarterback at Arizona was balling out, and Caleb Williams and USC still found a way to win. So. Not an ugly win, crazy win, but good for them. And they might have been looking forward to Notre Dame. Who knows? But I'm just going to chalk it up to the Pac-12 being good. Arizona is definitely on the come up, Russ. And I'm happy for them. The Pac-12 is obviously going to be gone, but it was always good when Arizona State was playing well. Just amazing performance by both quarterbacks. It's good that USC squeaked it out. You got to win these type of games. But, we saw this with Colorado, too, where they just let these, the defense, you just let them in the game. It's just like you got to, at some point here, put a stop to it. All right? Put the hammer down.
I was watching, I think it was this morning. I can't remember. I think it was First Take watching. And Feinbaum comes on. It was Feinbaum comes on. And he goes, Alex Grinch is actually running good defensive calls. But is it because the offense works so fast that the defense never gets an actual break because they're scoring like this? So every time you take a seat, we score, we get back on the field. So is it the defense is really bad, or is it just because the offense is moving so fast, the defense is out on the field, half the game?
Yeah, that could be. And that was originally, remember, that was the problem with Chip Kelly when he came out with his offense was the offense would just score so much, the defense would get gassed by the second half. They literally couldn't stop anyone in the second half of games because the offense was just scoring so quick. So you might be onto something, Russ.
My only rebuttal to this, being devil's advocate, is simply, aren't you practicing with this offense? Yeah. Don't you know what their pace is?
Joe.
Like, aren't you getting the same conditioning as the offense? Or shouldn't you still be in there? Now I understand. I get the idea. I get the premise. Again, if you score in one play and you've just been battling on a 12-play drive, you're going to be gassed, but still conditioning, practicing with this offense, you should kind of have something build up in the tank.
We're talking about practice, Joe. Practice. We're talking about practice.
Easy.
Not a game.
My college coach used to say that practice should be harder than the game. So maybe USC needs to amp up practice a little bit.
My personal My personal favorite part of this whole game was when the TV station, they showed that player from USC on the defense saying, no, it's not Alex Grinch. It's just us missing assignments. And immediately have to show that exact guy blows a huge play, and then Arizona makes a great catch for a huge gain.
Cosmic timing.
I guess he's calling himself out. So good for him, keeping himself accountable. Oh, boy. So we've gone through our whole recap segment. Now, the Russ Report. Give it to us.
All right. So Justin's back on top. You got to, you hit your upset. So you got 38.
We all hit our upsets, though.
Joe's right behind it, 37-5. He hit his upset, too. I'm at 32, making a comeback. I got my cover, bear down. Pete, you're at 29. I like the effort, but we called 2 games on Friday. Then you can't be like, I threw my picks in. I mean, you're way off the live betting, so you get a 0 for the week. Sabbatical Pete. It's sabbatical
Wow.
Pete.
Wow. I'm in Canada. I'm not getting any college football access anywhere. The Quebecois are talking Quebecois. I can't understand a word they're saying. I didn't even know the 2 games went on. When I sent you those picks, I was like, I had no idea they even happened.
The best part is you send me the picks you send them on Saturday morning, and then you pick Nebraska to cover in money line. I'm like, Pete, they already won. This game happened.
Bro, I'm with a bunch of people who are French up there. No one watches college football. Nothing. I didn't watch. I barely got any games. All the info I have from this tonight, I watched highlights. So I was shooting, from my hip, not knowing anything. So whatever. I'll take the L. I'll come back. I'll bounce back, baby. No big deal. About to go on a run never seen before in the history of gambling.
I can't wait, because now it's time for the Paradise Parlay, where Pete can do just that with his PD Parlay. Starting with the Dana Holgerson Bowl, West Virginia at Houston. West Virginia is favored as a road favorite here by 3 points. 51.5 over under. Money line here is WVU minus 148 and Houston plus 124. Let's start with you, Sabbatical Pete.
Oh man, I'm sorry. I was texting. My eyes were off the thing. So on this game, West Virginia, take me home, Mountain Mama. I'm going West Virginia to cover. They're going to win by 3. I'm going to go over 51.5, and I'm going to take West Virginia money line. I don't really believe in Houston.
Good picks, Joe.
Pete, did you steal my script or what?
Sorry, dude.
I have I have West Virginia over and money line West Virginia.
Okay, Russ.
Well, I'm going to take Houston to cover. I'm going to take West Virginia money line. West Virginia's got to win this game. 2-0 in the Big 12, so they got to, they want to stay up there. And then I'm going to take the over.
I agree with you on this aspect here, Russ. I'll take Houston to cover. I think this is going to be a really tough dogfight, but neither team can really score. So I'm also going to go the under here, and I'll take the West Virginia money line to win. Neil Brown has got these guys playing better. I don't think they're elite, but they're better than last year. Not ready to give him that benefit of the doubt. Staying in the Big 12 here, Kansas at Oklahoma State. Now, last week, we all were on the Kansas State train at Oklahoma State. They end up blowing it badly. KU here is a road favorite, 3.5. Over-under here is 57. KU minus 175 money line. OSU plus 145. Russ, let's start with you.
I told Joe I gave myself a little nickname. I shouldn't have done this, but I should have let you. But it's definitely accurate, especially with my sports pick. So I'm flip flopping Russ. I had picked Oklahoma State to cover. Went in, flipped the pick. What happens? I lose. So I'm gonna go OK State. Okay, I'm gonna Oklahoma. OK State to cover. I'm gonna go KU money line in the over.
Pete, jump on in.
Yeah, I'm not flip flopping. I'm sticking with this one. I'm gonna do Kansas to cover 3.5. I'm gonna do the over of 57. And I'm going to take Kansas money line. I think Oklahoma State is donezo. Bye-bye, Gundy.
I mean, looking at this, you can't make that comment and then expect to come out and then say, oh, we're going to win this handily. Sure. I think Kansas is playing really hot right now. The only reason they have a loss is because they played Texas tooth and nail to the end in Austin, and they're just on a mission this year to not only make a bowl game on the earlier side, but they've got bigger aspirations in mind, maybe playing spoiler for the Big 12 championship. So I'll go the Jayhawks to cover. I'm going to take the over because Kansas has no problem scoring, whether it's Jalen Daniels or Jason Bean at the helm. And I'll take the Kansas money line. Joe.
Yeah, I agree with everything you and Pete said. I mean, I think Kansas. I thought we were talking about Kansas last week, so I got confused. Kansas State, Kansas. One's purple, one's a great basketball team. My bad. Yeah, I think Jayhawks are on a mission. Again, they've been so bad for so long, and to actually be having a year like they are, like you said, Justin, battling tooth and nail with Texas. They've been in some tough, hostile environments. Oklahoma State is nothing compared to Austin, in my opinion. So I'm taking Kansas. I'm taking the over, and I'm going to take Kansas with the 3.5.
Let's get it, baby.
Going over to the East Coast, Miami at North Carolina. Can the Hurricanes rebound at the red-hot North Carolina Tar Heels? UNC is a home favorite here, minus 3.5. Over under here is 55.5. UNC minus 180. Miami plus 150. Let's start with Joe.
Yeah, if Miami had won last week, I probably would have been a lot higher on Miami than I am now. And considering it's also at North Carolina, I just think that again the wind again has been taken out of Miami's sails. I think they're going to get off the ground, get the ball rolling, and then they do something like they did last week. So I'm going to take North Carolina, the 3.5. I'm going to take the over, and I'm taking North Carolina money line. I think Miami's kind of just whatever at this point.
Joe, rocking with the Tar Heels. Pete, are you congruent or against?
Not so fast, my friend. I think Miami's going to dig deep this entire week. Obviously, they're going to have a bad taste in their mouth. I'm just not sold on the Tar Heels. I think Miami's going to win this one. I was thinking about maybe doing this as my upset, although I'm not sure what I even put as my upset. But I'm taking Miami to cover 3.5. Doesn't matter that they're away. I'm doing an under. I think it's going to be a close game, and I think it's going to be less points. So I'm thinking it's going to be maybe something like, 27-17. And I'm going the under and Miami money line.
Okay, Russ.
I'm going Miami cover. I'm going UNC with the W. I'm hitting the over. UNC has got to stay up there with Florida State and Louisville right now, are both undefeated.
I love the Miami Hurricanes. I just don't know if I love them on a hostile environment on the road here in North Carolina against maybe the number 2 pick in the upcoming draft, Drake May. Seeing as well as North Carolina is playing, they're not letting teams score on them. They're just outscoring them left and right, and defense playing hot. Mac Brown has got those guys fired up. They want to announce themselves, hey, we're not just here competing with the ACC. We want to get in the playoff. We're not a basketball school only. So I'm going to go heavy on the Tar Heels here. I'll take North Carolina to cover. I may call this a push. I think it's going to be right around there. Can I do that, Russ?
Do what? You're calling the cover? Are you calling it the money line?
I'm just calling a push on the over-under.
Oh, a push. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's going to be right around there. And then I'll take North Carolina money line as well.
That's a first.
Oh, yeah.
Touchdown in paradise first to call for a push.
Are you able to call a push on a half point?
Oh, my gosh. I'm going to risk it.
Justin, yeah.
Hey, give them a push if the line moves. If it gets to an even number, give them the push.
If it goes to 56, I'll call a push.
Yeah.
If it goes to 54, I'll call the over.
There we go.
That's what you do. See, I mean, and like what I did is after the Oklahoma game, I told Joe, I go, hey, I went to the tape. It was inconclusive. So they went with my opinion, and I said I picked Oklahoma, so I got the points.
Moving on, we've got the battle of the Tigers in the SEC. Well, 2 out of the 3 because there can't be a 3-way. LSU minus 11.5 here, Auburn LSU. 62.5 over under. LSU is a home favorite, minus 455 money line. Auburn plus 350. In the battle of these Tigers, I want to hear from Pete on the Brian Kelly expertise on this.
I hate to say this, but I think not even Brian Kelly. Let's not utter that guy's name. Screw him. This is all about Jaden Daniels. Am I pronouncing that right? Yes, I am. Jaden Daniels balling out. The kid is killing it this season. I think he is the sole reason. That is why LSU is going to cover, and I'm hitting the over at 62.5. I think he's going to ball out again, and they're playing at home. And I was kind of on Auburn a little bit earlier this season, but I'm out on them.
They did play Georgia pretty close, but that was a rivalry game. Russ, do they have enough?
Well, I'm going to go Auburn with the cover. I'm going to go LSU money line because it is at night at Death Valley, and I'm going to go the over.
Joe.
Yeah, I think the pressure's off Brian Kelly now because he has 2 losses, and he's just trying to get to a bowl game. So I think this is an easy win for LSU. I'm taking LSU with the points. I'm taking the over, and I'm taking moneyline LSU. It's in Death Valley. The one thing about Brian Kelly is he didn't lose many home games at ND. I don't think he's going to lose many home games at LSU. So I think that's just another reason why LSU is going to win big here.
I agree. Auburn is a work in progress. Hugh Freeze has got those boys coming up, but they're not ready yet. Brian Kelly showed that he was ready to win right away, and I think they still are. This is in Death Valley. This is a primetime game. I just don't see LSU making this close. They're going to blow them out, so I'll take everything LSU here. I'll take the over. I'll take the money line here, and I'll also take them to cover. I know it's pretty big, but let's try it out. Now up here, Big Ten action. Iowa at Wisconsin. UW minus 10. Over under a very low, modest 30.5. And then we have UW over here minus 375. Iowa plus 295. Russ, let's hear from you first.
All right, so I'm going Iowa to cover. I'm going Iowa money line, and I'm going the over. The Iowa coach has a clause in his contract that he has to score 25 points a game. So, for that being said, score 25, all Wisconsin's got to do is score 10. So, or 12, excuse me. It's like 36.5 or something. So, book it.
Okay.
Yeah, bro. I'm just going to jump in on this one, Justin. Russ, you're wrong. Fickle's going to have those boys rolling. It's at home. It doesn't matter if Iowa scores 25 points if they're going to lose by 20. So I'm taking Wisconsin heavy, Wisconsin to cover, money line, and definitely the over because Fickle – I can't remember the last time he was in a game where maybe they scored less than 36.5 points or I don't know. But I think Wisconsin heavy.
Yeah, looking at this, I think Wisconsin is going to win. I just don't see it being very high scoring. I think they will. I don't even know if Wisconsin will cover. I'll take the over, but it's probably going to be like 13 to 20 something. Gosh, I don't really even know. I'll take Iowa to cover. I'll take the over here, and I'll go to money line win it. Joe.
Russ, upset of the week for me, sir, for sure. Iowa's defense is legit. I like Wisconsin. I think people are sleeping on the Hawkeyes. I'm just going to say it. They had a rough game at Penn State, but Wisconsin is not no Penn State. So Iowa with the points. I'm taking the over. I agree. I think there's going to be points, and I have Iowa money line.
Okay, moving along to our second biggest game of the week here, USC at Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a favorite here at home, minus 2.5. The over-under is 60.5. Notre Dame minus 130 money line, and USC plus 110. Pete, let's hear it.
Brady Quinn and the Fox Game Day guys are coming to South Bend. He's going to bring a little Notre Dame magic with him, and Notre Dame is going to beat the brakes off of USC. Leinert's going to be crying over in the stands, and Caleb Williams hopes to be the Heisman, hopes to win the whole thing, are done. Notre Dame, money line, cover, over. We can't lose 3 games. We are done losing. We're going to win out, and it starts on Saturday. Come on.
Joe, can they contain Caleb Williams and come out with the victory?
Yeah, Pete, walk away. I have SC winning. I'm taking the 2.5. I'm taking the over. I'm taking SC to win. I just think our offense is flat. As much as it kills me, I thought Sam Hartman was the real answer to this offense. But like Pete said in the Louisville game, our play calling is just basic at best. And then our defense looks awful. It looked awful against Louisville, and Louisville doesn't have a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback.
They do, but not this year.
The only saving grace is SC's defense is probably way worse. It's at South Bend. But I have to go SC until Marcus Freeman and that team show me that they can actually put some points up on the board. I have to go SC.
I respect it, Joe. I'm just going with blind fandom here.
I hear you. I struggled with this one, considering it is at home. It's still mind-blowing that SC's not favored in this game.
I know, I'm shocked.
But I learned from last week. I thought Washington State was going to blow out UCLA, and look what happened with that game. So obviously Vegas is telling me something, but Pete, I hope you're right.
And I'm going to go a little different direction from Joe here. This has the recipe for a surprise, as it sees here. So looking at this, last year, when did Lincoln Riley lose the only regular season game of the season? When he was on the road at night in a hostile environment, the middle of America, not near the ocean, and that was against Utah in a very high-scoring game. I feel like this has the recipe to match that energy. You know, all those fans are going to be hyped up. Big noon kickoff is going to be there. Caleb Williams has looked great. He hasn't faced a Notre Dame defense just yet, like this one. Also, USC's defense is gassed after last week. People are figuring them out. This has all the recipe for Sam Hartman to make a big statement for his draft stock, too, to have a huge game. With that being said, I'll take Notre Dame to win with that, probably that 2-point conversion that happened last year when Utah beat USC. So I'll go, I guess that means I have to pick USC to cover because it's a half point here. I'm definitely taking the over. It's going to be a shootout. And then I'll take Notre Dame money line to win. Russ.
Well, boys, it's 3 points now. So I'm sorry, Pete. I'm with Joe. I'm taking USC to cover. I'm taking the over. And I'm taking USC to win. You know, USC's got to stay right there with the big boys in the Pac-12. You know, they got this is a staple win for them if they can beat Notre Dame, even though Notre Dame's a little down. So I'm riding with Caleb Williams.
Again, I hope Justin, Pete, you're right. I hope my pick's wrong. I will take losing the points if that means Notre Dame gets the win. But I'm with you, Russ. I just feel like this is a must-win for SC if they want to make some noise.
And I will say, I think this is a really a game where it's Freeman versus Riley. Riley always brings it on offense. Sometimes Freeman doesn't bring it on defense, which has been happening this season. He needs to step up. He's got to have those boys ready because that's his calling card, his defense. They better freaking step up, man, because if they're a bit slow here or there, Williams is just going to fucking exploit them. So it's going to be a rough one. I'm hoping we win. I know we're going to win, but we have a lot to work on. So, hopefully they're practicing really hard this week.
Okay, and we're going to speed through the rest here. So we have our game of the week here, one that we've all been waiting for as traditional college football fans. Oregon at Washington. Insane matchup here. This UW is favored by 2.5 at home, 67.5 over under. Washington money line here is minus 148. Oregon plus 124. I'm going to start with Joe.
Oh man, why me? I had one thing in mind, and then I realized I'm wearing a Seattle shirt, and I'm like, do I have to pick Washington? Is this meant to be? But no, I'm going the Ducks. I think that the way the Ducks shut down Colorado, I know Colorado is not Washington, but again, I think Oregon's defense is legit this year. I think their offense is legit. I think this could be a pick'em game. So I'm just going with my gut here. I'm going Oregon. I'm taking the over, and I'm taking Oregon with the points.
Russ, let's hear from you.
Oh, well, it's 3 points now, boys. 3 points, went up half.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Oregon's going to cover, but I'm going Huskies. I'm going with Washington. I'm all on Michael Penix. I have no clue where this game goes. Honestly, like the Pac-12, they're going to cannibalize themselves this year. So, I mean, yeah, I think I'm high on Washington, but I'm high on Oregon too. I have no clue where to go. I'm going with who I went with right off the bat. So I think they'll cover with the 3. I'm going the over. I'm going to take Washington because it's in Seattle. But like I said, it could go the other way. I have no clue. The Pac-12 is so competitive this year. I love it.
Pete.
Yeah, that game against Colorado really kind of shook me and really woke me up to Oregon. I'm taking Oregon, man. I think they're going to win, not handily, but comfortably. I think Bo Nix is going to ball out. This is going to be a shootout. Doesn't matter if it's at Washington or Oregon. They're both not that far apart. I think this is going to be a crazy game. There's probably going to be 80-some points scored, I'm guessing. You might even want to take a round robin or some type of extended over because this game's going over for sure. So I'm going to take Oregon to cover the 2.5 easily and to hit the over at 67.5 and the money line. I'm pounding it.
I have been going back and forth on this all week, really all season, because Bo Nix is fantastic this year. The Oregon defense is unbelievable. Dan Lanning is a defensive coach. But meanwhile, Michael Penix, there's just been nobody that's been able to stop him. He's just the perfect air raid quarterback. He's going to be a high draft pick this year. I know he's been my Heisman pick. I just feel like if there's any team that's going to stop Washington, it's going to be Oregon. And I just feel like there was going to be one team that was going to stop Washington. So I hate to do this. For that reason, I'm going to pick the Ducks. I'll go the Ducks money line. I'll take Oregon to cover on the spread. And I'm definitely taking that over, smashing that 67.5. They're going to be like 34-42, some crazy score like that. Quack, quack. Let's go. Okay, speeding through the rest here. Upsets and covers of the week. So my upset of the week goes to University of Alabama, Birmingham. Go Blazers +9 over UTSA. Head coach Trent Dilfer, Super Bowl winning quarterback, is going to have those Blazers channeling the 2000 Ravens quarterback their first Lombardi trophy. Joe.
I already gave mine. Iowa over Wisconsin +10.
Yes. Russ.
So Dilfer is going to be channeling the 2000 Ravens because he was the quarterback and they won because their defense was so dominant. So it's not going to be because of him because the offense was so.
But he was there. He knows what they were like.
Trent Dilfer,
the shit.
High school coach, Lipscomb Academy there in Nashville, turned that program around. So I like it. I'm going BYU over TCU.
All right.
Battle of the religions.
Mm-hmm. And Pete.
I'm going UCLA over Oregon State. That's my pick. I don't know why, but I just got a feeling UCLA's.
Switch it up. That's a 3.5. It's got to be 4.5.
Oh crap!
Right,
okay, my bad, dude. I didn't know that was the case, my man. All right. Well, I don't know. I'll get back to you.
It's got to be before game day. Just remember.
Yes, we'll be back.
I can do that.
Okay, now for our sleeper team, I've been very interested in this team here. Wyoming has only lost to Texas, and they played them very, very close in Austin. And they did defeat Texas Tech earlier this year. They also just got a win over a ranked Fresno State team. Don't sleep on the Cowboys. Not those Cowboys, Pete. These Cowboys. Josh Allen's Cowboys. Joe.
Yeah, I don't have one this week. Honestly, I kind of feel like everyone's where they're meant to be. I don't think there's really going to be much of a surprise. I mean, if you're going to throw one in, North Carolina against Miami, but they're favored. So yeah, I don't have a sleeper this week.
Okay, Russ.
I mean, I like Wazoo still and Oregon State. So, I'm sticking with that West Coast Pac-12 flair.
And Pete.
Yeah, I'm going Oregon. I really am kind of awake to them now. I feel like I'm seeing things clearly. And they haven't been a sleeper team to you guys. You guys have been talking a lot about them, but just in my head, I've been sleeping on them, bro. I've been going right past them. So I think Oregon is my sleeper team. I didn't have them to get into the top 4, and I think they're probably going to do it.
That's fair. Now, for the games we're watching here as Touchdown in Paradise, my game I'm watching, I'm going heavy on the group of 5 today, but Tulane at Memphis. The winner likely gets a New Year's Six bowl bid if they win out, unless those Wyoming Cowboys sneak in there. Joe.
I'm going with the obvious one. I'm taking Notre Dame SC game, a big rivalry game. I think it would have been bigger if it was a one-loss Notre Dame team against an undefeated SC team, but I still think there's a lot on the line for SC and even for Notre Dame. If you get a win against SC, that's a big signature win that you can build on for next year. So don't miss it. NBC, watch it.
Russ, let's hear it.
I'm going UCLA, Oregon State. I think that's going to be a very good game. UCLA's got his defense rolling. One loss, beat a tough Wazoo team. I think that's going to be a really good game. Oregon State's looking good too. This will be their first real true test they've had too.
And Pete.
Yeah, those are good. I originally had Oregon versus Washington in there, but I think the game I'm really going to be watching is probably Texas A&M versus Tennessee. I want to see if Tennessee can handle business. I mean, Texas A&M had a close game against Bama. I'm not sold on them, but they've had some close games, some good wins. I just want to see that Tennessee can handle business at home and really kind of dominate them. I'd really like to see that. I don't want to see a close game. I want to see Tennessee dominate.
Mm-hmm. Love it, guys. No stat of the day today. We're going to go right to our 4 cheers of the week, starting here. My cheer of the week goes to Colorado kicker Alejandro Mata. Delivers a game-winning 43-yard kick versus ASU on the road. ASU coach calls a timeout as he made the kick to ice him. Then he came right back and he made it again, took the lead. After the game, he told a reporter, I got ice in my veins, man. Like, come on, bro. You can't ice something that's already been iced. Know what I'm saying? So cheers to you, Alejandro Mata.
Woo!
Joe.
I have 2 this week. The first one is obviously Vegas. They obviously the past weekend and this weekend must know something that I don't, because some of these spreads are bizarre to me. Wazoo last week, SC not being favored this week. So rather interesting. And then my second one I already mentioned earlier, Mark Stoops, again, calling out the NIL, calling out Georgia after Kirby Smart went and said, oh, everyone in the SEC should be rated, blah, blah, blah. I just find it funny that, again, coach in the SEC is going back at him and saying, yeah, no wonder everyone, you're paying for your players. So, just to have the balls to kind of stand up and say something against someone like Kirby Smart in Georgia. I give my cheers, my applause to you. So, Mark Stoops, you're the man.
Very good. Russ.
I'm going to go Oklahoma. Dylan Gabriel and Brett Venable there. Got embarrassed last year, came back, got a huge W last Red Rover rivalry in the Big 12. So, that was an impressive W.
All right. I don't always cheer for Oklahoma, but because you said it, Russ.
Boomer.
And Pete.
I don't know if I'd ever say it, and I might never say it again. So, screen grab that, clip that. Cheers to Nick Saban. Good win away at Texas A&M. Texas loses, who they lost to. I just feel like things are kind of shaping up here where maybe Alabama can somehow find their way in the top 4. I don't know. I'm just getting this weird brew. It's the holidays, Halloween. The witches are brewing something. Saban's brewing something here, and I don't like it. But cheers to him, because I think something might happen with them. So you can never count them out. I just, if you beat Alabama, you can't lose the rest of the season, and Texas lost. So, God dang it. I just cheers to him, but screw him.
Cheers to him, but screw him. Perfect way to end the show here.
A
Thank
nice
you all for
backdoor
tuning in.
compliment there, Pete.
Yeah, I had to do it, man.
You had to. Thank you all for tuning in to Touchdown in Paradise on the Fins Talk Sports Network. I'm Justin.
I'm Pete.
I'm Joe.
I'm Russ.
And don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us for more here in the Fins Talk Sports Network. We'll see you next week.
ND Nation.